The starship Horizon moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was not a big ship. It was not covered in weapons like the warships of other species. It was simple and clean, painted white with blue lines along its sides. Inside this ship, the human delegation prepared for the most important meeting in their history. Kim. Tay stood near the window of the observation deck. He watched the stars pass by like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. He was a tall man with broad shoulders, but he did not stand like a soldier. His back was slightly bent. His hands were folded in front of him. He wore simple gray clothes with no medals or marks of rank. Anyone who looked at him would think he was a servant or a low-level assistant. That was exactly what he wanted them to think. The door behind him opened with a soft sound. Park Yuna walked in, her boots making sharp clicks on the metal floor. She was the chief tactical officer of the Horizon, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had fought in many battles. "We will arrive at Axis Prime in 2 hours," she said. Tay did not turn around. "How many ships are already there?" "Over 300. The Kareth Empire brought 40 warships. They call it an honor guard." Yuna's voice was tight with anger. "It is not an honor guard. It is a threat." "I know," Tay said quietly. Yuna stepped closer to him. "The Council thinks this peace summit is real, but my intelligence reports say something different. The Kareth have been moving weapons in secret. Their warlord, Drekthus, has been talking about making an example of a weak species. And we are the weakest species in the Union," Tay said. "In their eyes, yes." Yuna crossed her arms. "Humans have only been traveling through space for 200 years. These aliens have existed for thousands of years. They think we are children playing with toys we do not understand." Tay finally turned to look at her. His face was calm, almost empty of emotion. But his eyes held something deep and old, like a fire burning far beneath the surface. "Let them think that," he said. The Horizon docked at Axis Prime 3 hours later. The station was enormous, a giant ring of metal and glass floating in the empty space between 3 star systems. It was neutral ground, owned by no one, built specifically for meetings like this one. 47 species had sent delegations. Thousands of aliens filled its halls. The human delegation walked down the long corridor toward the main assembly hall. Ambassador Yunsu led the group. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but her spine was straight and her steps were firm. Behind her walked her advisors, her guards, and her staff. Kim Tae walked at the very back, 3 steps behind everyone else. Aliens of all shapes and sizes watched them pass. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had too many eyes or too many arms. They whispered to each other in languages that the translation devices turned into words the humans could understand. "Look at them. So small. So fragile. Their bones break so easily. Their skin tears like paper. Why did the Union even allow them to join? They have nothing to offer. They are good workers, I heard. Strong backs, weak minds." They heard every word. His expression did not change. He kept walking with his head slightly down, his hands loose at his sides. But inside his chest, something stirred. Something hot and bright that he had spent years learning to control. The assembly hall was a massive dome filled with floating platforms. Each platform held a delegation from a different species. The humans were given a platform near the bottom, far from the center where the important decisions would be made. It was an insult, and everyone knew it. High Chancellor Vialorn stood on the central platform. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Valori, had ruled the Galactic Union for 600 years. He believed that made him better than everyone else. "Welcome, honored delegates," Valorn said. His voice echoed through the hall. "We gather here to discuss peace, to build bridges between our peoples, to create a future where all species can live without fear. He paused and looked down at the human platform. Even the newest members of our union are welcome here. The humans have only recently learned to travel between stars. They are like children taking their first steps. We must be patient with them. We must guide them. After all, they make adequate laborers. Laughter filled the hall. Hundreds of aliens laughed at the humans. Tay watched Ambassador Yun Su. Her hands tightened into fists, but her face remained calm. She did not respond to the insult. She simply nodded politely, as if Vylon had paid her a compliment. That night, the human delegation gathered in their quarters. The rooms were small and plain, nothing like the grand suites given to other species. Li Han stood guard at the door. He was a big man with a scarred face, and his eyes never stopped moving, always watching for danger. They gave us the worst rooms on the station, he said. The ventilation is bad. The water tastes like metal. I think they are trying to make us leave. We will not leave, Ambassador Yun Su said. We came here for peace, and we will stay until we achieve it. Choi Mina sat in the corner, reading data on her tablet. She was the team scientist, specializing in alien biology. Her voice was soft when she spoke. I have been looking at the Karath delegation. Their soldiers are carrying more weapons than security requires. And I found something strange in the station's medical database. Someone has been researching human DNA. Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Yuna asked. I mean, someone is studying our weaknesses, Mina said. Someone wants to know exactly how to hurt us. The room fell silent. Kim Tae stood by the window, looking out at the stars. The other members of the delegation often forgot he was there. He was so quiet, so still, that he seemed to blend into the shadows. We should leave, Li Han said. This place is not safe. We cannot leave, Ambassador Yun Su replied. If we run away, we prove them right. We prove that humans are weak and easily frightened. We must stay and show them who we really are. And who are we? Yuna asked. No one answered. Later that night, when everyone else was sleeping, Tae walked alone through the empty corridors of Axis Prime. He moved without sound, like a ghost drifting through the darkness. He found a quiet observation room and stood before the great window, watching the Karath warships floating outside. 40 warships. Each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a planet. Tae closed his eyes. Deep inside him, the power stirred again. He could feel it pressing against the walls he had built around it. It wanted to be free. It wanted to burn. He opened his eyes. For just a moment, they glowed with golden light. Then the glow faded, and his eyes were normal again. Not yet, he whispered to himself. Not yet. But he knew the time was coming. He could feel it in his bones. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans were prey. The galaxy was about to learn how wrong it was. 3 days passed on Axis Prime. 3 days of meetings and arguments and insults. The human delegation sat quietly on their low platform while other species talked over them, ignored them, and treated them like they did not exist. Park Yuna watched everything with sharp eyes. She noticed how the Kara soldiers moved through the station. She noticed how they whispered to each other when they thought no one was looking. She noticed how Warlord Drakethus smiled whenever he looked at the humans. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a hunter watching his prey. Drakethus was a giant. He stood almost 3 meters tall, covered in thick gray scales that could stop a bullet. His eyes were red like blood, and his teeth were sharp like knives. He had conquered 12 star systems and killed millions of beings. He was the most feared creature in the galaxy, and he wanted the humans dead. Yuna shared her concerns with Ambassador Yun Su, but the ambassador refused to leave. We must trust the process, she said. We must believe in peace. Yuna did not believe in peace. She believed in preparation. While the diplomats talked, Choi Mia worked alone in the station's science lab. The Union had given her limited access to their research facilities, probably hoping she would be too stupid to understand their technology. They were wrong. Mina was brilliant. She had learned 3 alien languages in 2 years. She could read their data systems like they were children's books. And what she found in those systems made her blood run cold. The Kareth had created a BIOYABJUEAPON. It was a virus designed to attack human DNA, only human DNA. It would not harm any other species. If released, it would spread through the air, through water, through touch. Humans would start dying within hours. There would be no cure. Mina copied the data to a hidden device and rushed back to the human quarters. Her hands were shaking when she showed the information to Yuna. "They are planning to kill us all," Mina said. "Not just the delegation. All humans, everywhere." Yuna stared at the data. Her face turned pale, then hard as stone. "Are you certain?" "Yes. The bioweapon is already on this station. They are waiting for the right moment to release it." Yuna turned to Li Han. "Find Tae. Bring him here now." Li Han found Kin Tae in one of the lower corridors, standing in the shadows like he always did. Most people would have walked right past him without noticing. But Han had known Tae for 5 years. He knew what the quiet man was capable of. "We have a problem," Han said. Tae nodded slowly. "I know. I have been watching the Kareth. Something is wrong. It is worse than wrong. Come with me." In the human quarters, Tae listened as Mina explained what she had found. His face showed no emotion. His body stayed perfectly still. But something changed in the air around him. The temperature dropped. The lights flickered for just a moment. "Where is the bioweapon now?" Tae asked. "I do not know exactly," Mina said. "But it is somewhere on this station. Then we need to find it." Han stepped forward. "I have been tracking the Kareth soldiers. They have been moving supplies into the lower sections of the station. I think they are hiding weapons." "Show me," Tae said. That night, Tae and Han moved through the dark corridors of Axis Prime. They avoided the security cameras. They slipped past the guards. They moved like shadows, silent and invisible. The lower sections of the station were old and forgotten. Dust covered the floors. The lights did not work properly. Most species avoided these areas, which made them perfect for hiding secrets. Han led Tae to a large storage room. The door was locked with Kareth security codes, but Tae touched the lock and it clicked open. Han did not ask how. He had learned not to ask questions about the things Tae could do. Inside the room, they found crates. Hundreds of crates stacked from floor to ceiling. Han opened one and found plasma rifles. He opened another and found explosives. He opened a third and found armor. "This is enough weapons for an army," Han whispered. Tae opened a smaller crate near the back. Inside was a silver container, cold to the touch, sealed with warning symbols. He knew immediately what it was. "The bioweapon," he said. "They plan to release it during the final ceremony, when all the delegates are gathered in one place. We need to tell the Union," Han said. "The Union will not believe us. We are just humans. Our word means nothing to them. Then what do we do?" Tae closed the crate and stood up. His eyes were dark and serious. "We prepare, and we wait." The next day, a visitor came to the human quarters. She was different from the other aliens. She had smooth silver skin and large dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Her name was Scylla, and she was a diplomat from a species called the Ven. "I need to speak with you," she said to Ambassador Yun-Su, in private. They sat together in a small room while the others waited outside. Scylla spoke in a low voice, looking around as if she expected enemies to appear at any moment. I know what the Kareth are planning, she said. They are going to attack your delegation during the peace ceremony tomorrow night. They want to show the galaxy that humans are weak, that anyone who supports humans will face the same fate. The ambassador's face was calm, but her hands trembled slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because not everyone in the Union hates humans. Some of us believe you deserve a chance. Some of us remember what it was like to be new and small and afraid. What can we do? Scylla shook her head. I do not know. The Kareth are too strong. Drakethus has never lost a battle. If you fight, you will die. If you run, they will chase you. I came to warn you because I thought you deserved to know the truth. After Scylla left, the ambassador called her team together. She told them everything. When she finished, the room was silent. We should contact Earth, Una said. Warn them. Tell them to prepare our defenses. Earth is too far away, the ambassador said. By the time help arrives, we will already be dead. Lihan stood by the door, his hand resting on his weapon. Then we fight. We take as many of them as we can. Against 40 warships? Mine asked. Against an army of Kareth soldiers? We have 50 people on this station. We cannot win. Everyone looked at each other. Fear filled the room like cold water. These were brave people, people who had trained for danger. But they were facing something bigger than anything they had ever imagined. Then Kim Tae spoke. His voice was soft, almost gentle. But something in it made everyone stop and listen. Tell your friend Scylla to keep her people away from the Grand Hall tomorrow night, he said to the ambassador. Tell her to stay in her quarters with the doors locked. The ambassador stared at him. Why? Because I do not want innocent people to get hurt. Una frowned. Tae, what are you planning? You are just one man. What can one man do against an empire? Tae looked at her. For a moment, his eyes seemed to glow with faint golden light. Then it was gone, so fast that she thought she had imagined it. You have never seen what a human can do when they stop holding back, he said. Tomorrow night the galaxy will learn. He turned and walked out of the room, disappearing into the shadows like he had never been there at all. The others looked at each other in confusion, but Park Una felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt hope. The Grand Hall of Axis Prime was filled with light and color. Giant chandeliers floated in the air, powered by technology older than human civilization. Banners from 47 species hung from the ceiling. Music played softly in the background as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the final peace ceremony. The human delegation entered through the main doors. Ambassador Yun-Su walked at the front, her head held high despite the fear she felt inside. Park Una stayed close to her side. Lihan watched the room with careful eyes. Choi Mina clutched her bag tightly, knowing it held the only proof of the Kareth conspiracy. And at the back, walking in silence, came Kim Tae. He wore the same simple gray clothes he always wore. His head was slightly bowed, his hands loose at his sides. No one paid attention to him. No one ever did. The Kareth delegation stood on a raised platform at the center of the hall. Warlord Drakethus towered above everyone, his red eyes scanning the room like a predator searching for prey. Around him stood 50 of his best soldiers, dressed in black armor, their weapons hidden but ready. High Chancellor Vialorm raised his 4 arms to quiet the crowd. His voice echoed through the hall. Tonight, we celebrate peace. Tonight, we show the galaxy that different species can live together in harmony. Tonight, we make history. The crowd applauded politely. But the humans did not clap. They stood still and watched. Drakethus stepped forward. His heavy boots shook the floor with each step. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Peace is a beautiful word, he said. But peace is built on strength. Only the strong can protect the weak. Only the strong can maintain order. He looked directly at the human delegation. And only the strong deserve to survive. He raised his hand. It was the signal. The lights in the grand hall flickered and died. For 3 seconds, everything was dark. Then emergency lights came on, casting the room in red. Kara's soldiers appeared at every exit. Their weapons were drawn, pointing at the crowd. More soldiers rappelled down from the ceiling on cables. Others emerged from hidden doors in the walls. In seconds, the grand hall became a trap. Screams filled the air. Delegates from other species tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The Karath had blocked every escape route. Drakethus laughed. The sound was terrible. Look at you, the great Galactic Union. Centuries of power, and you fall apart at the first sign of danger. He pointed at the human delegation. But we are not here for all of you. We are here for them. The humans. The weak little creatures who think they belong among the stars. His soldiers aimed their weapons at the human group. Watch closely, Drakethus said to the crowd. Watch what happens to species who do not know their place. The Karath opened fire. Time seemed to slow down. Ambassador Yun-Su closed her eyes, ready for death. Park Yuna threw herself in front of the ambassador, trying to shield her. Li Han raised his weapon, knowing it was useless against so many enemies. Choi Mina dropped to the ground, covering her head, but the bullets never reached them. Kim Tae stepped forward. He raised one hand. The bullets stopped in mid-air. Hundreds of them, frozen in space, hanging like stars in the night sky. They vibrated slightly, fighting against the invisible force that held them. Then, one by one, they dropped harmlessly to the floor. The grand hall fell silent. Everyone stared at the quiet man in gray clothes. The man who had been invisible. The man who no one had noticed. Tae lowered his hand. When he looked up, his eyes were burning with golden light. Not just a flicker. Not just a hint. His eyes blazed like twin suns, filling the darkness around him with warm, terrible radiance. He spoke, and his voice was not loud. But somehow everyone in the hall could hear it perfectly. You spent 10,000 years evolving for your planets, adapting to your homes, becoming perfect for your environments. He took a step forward. The floor cracked beneath his foot. But humans? We had no perfect environment. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, droughts, diseases, predators. We survived them all. We did not evolve for comfort. We evolved to survive everything. The golden light spread from his eyes to his skin. His whole body began to glow. Your scientists studied human DNA. You wanted to find our weakness. But you found something else, did you not? You found genes that made no sense. Genes that seemed to be sleeping, waiting. Drakethus roared with anger. Kill him. Kill him now. His soldiers fired again. Plasma bolts, explosive rounds, energy beams. Everything they had. Tae waved his hand. The attacks curved around him and crashed into the walls. Those genes are not sleeping anymore, he said. He moved. It was not running. It was not even walking. He simply appeared in front of the first Karath soldier, like he had stepped through space itself. His fist connected with the soldier's chest plate. The armor, designed to stop starship weapons, shattered like glass. The soldier flew backward into 3 of his companions, knocking them all down. Tae spun and caught a plasma bolt out of the air. He crushed it in his palm, absorbing the energy. Then he threw the energy back as a wave of golden light that knocked 10 soldiers off their feet. He was not killing them. He was disabling them, breaking their weapons, shattering their armor, throwing them aside like toys. One man against an army, and the army was losing. The other delegates watched in shock. They had never seen anything like this. They had fought wars for thousands of years, And they had never seen a single being do what this human was doing. Scylla stood with her people, her eyes wide. "What is he?" she whispered. No one could answer. Park Yuna pulled the ambassador to safety behind a fallen pillar. She watched Tay move through the Karath soldiers like a storm through grass. She had always suspected he was different. She had seen small things over the years. The way he moved too fast sometimes. The way he knew things he should not know. But she never imagined this. Li Han protected Choimina, firing at any Karath who came close. But there was no need. Tay was drawing all the attention. He was the sun, and everything else was darkness. Drakethus finally moved. The warlord pulled out his personal weapon, an ancient blade passed down through generations of conquerors. The blade was made from a metal found only on dying stars. It had killed thousands of enemies. "Face me, human," Drakethus roared. "Face me and die." He charged at Tay with terrifying speed. The blade swung in a wide arc, aimed at Tay's neck. Tay caught the blade with his bare hand. The metal screamed as it bent. Drakethus stared in disbelief. Nothing had ever stopped that blade. Nothing. Tay twisted the weapon out of the warlord's grip and threw it aside. Then he grabbed Drakethus by the throat and lifted him off the ground, the mighty warlord, the conqueror of 12 star systems, the most feared being in the galaxy. He hung in the air like a child, kicking helplessly, unable to break free. Tay looked into his red eyes. "You wanted to kill my people," he said. His voice was calm, almost sad. "You wanted to show the galaxy that humans are weak, that we are prey." He pulled Drakethus closer until they were face to face. "We are not prey. We have never been prey. We are the species that hunted every predator on our planet to extinction. We are the species that conquered ice and fire and ocean and sky. We are the species that looked at the stars and said, 'We will go there too.'" He dropped Drakethus to the ground. The warlord gasped for air, clutching his throat. His soldiers lay scattered around the hall, unconscious or disarmed. The battle was over. It had lasted less than 3 minutes. Tay stood in the center of the hall, his golden glow slowly fading. When he spoke again, his voice was soft. "This is mercy. Remember it." He turned and walked back to his delegation. No one tried to stop him. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Every station, every planet, every ship with a communication system received the footage. Someone in the Grand Hall had recorded everything. The video showed the Karath attack, the frozen bullets, and the quiet man with glowing eyes who defeated an army alone. By morning, every species in the Galactic Union had seen it. By evening, they had watched it 100 times. On a small farming world at the edge of Union space, a family of blue-skinned farmers gathered around their screen. They watched in silence as Kinte caught the warlord's blade with his bare hand. "What is he?" the youngest child asked. "Human," the father whispered. "He is human." On the industrial planet of Karath Prime, citizens watched the video in shock. They had always been told that their warriors were the strongest in the galaxy. They had always believed that nothing could stop them. Now, they saw their greatest warlord hanging in the air like a toy, helpless against a creature they had laughed at. On the capital world of the Valori, High Chancellor Valorn sat in his private chamber, watching the video for the 20th time. His 4 hands trembled. His blue skin had turned pale gray. Everything he believed about the universe had changed in 3 minutes. The humans were not weak. The humans had never been weak. They had been hiding back on Axis Prime. The station was in chaos. Emergency crews worked to repair the damage. Medical teams treated the wounded. Security forces gathered the unconscious Karath soldiers and locked them in cells. The bioweapon was found and destroyed. the human delegation returned to their quarters. Park Yuna sealed the door and activated every security system they had. Outside, aliens gathered in the corridor, staring at the door as if a monster lived behind it. Ambassador Yunsu sat down heavily in a chair. She looked exhausted. "What happens now?" she asked. No one answered. Kim Tae stood by the window, his back to the room. The golden glow was gone. His eyes were normal again. He looked just like he always had, quiet and unremarkable. But everyone in the room knew the truth now. "They will be afraid," he said softly. "They will ask questions. They will wonder how many more like me there are." Yuna crossed her arms. "How many are there? Humans like you?" Tae was quiet for a long moment. 17. There were originally 50. The process of awakening is not gentle. Most did not survive. "Awakening?" Choi Mina asked. She had her tablet out, ready to take notes. The scientist in her could not stop asking questions. "What exactly happened to you?" Tae turned to face them. His face was tired and sad. 200 years ago, when humans first discovered faster-than-light travel, we also discovered something else. Ancient genetic code buried deep in human DNA. Code that had been dormant for thousands of years. Maybe millions. He sat down on a crate, looking smaller somehow. More human. Our ancestors did not just survive on Earth. They evolved in ways that other species never needed to. They developed abilities that we did not even know we had. Strength, speed, something like telekinesis. The ability to see energy and manipulate it. These abilities were passed down through generations, but they stayed asleep, hidden, waiting. Waiting for what? Lee Han asked. "We do not know. Maybe for a threat big enough to trigger them. Maybe for the right technology to wake them up." The government created a program called Project Remnant to study this code and find ways to activate it. I was one of the test subjects. Mina leaned forward. "And the process killed most of them?" Tae nodded. "The human body is not designed to hold this much power. It burns from the inside. Some people exploded. Some went insane. Some survived, but only barely." He looked down at his hands. "Every time I use these abilities, I feel a little less human. The fire takes something away each time." The room fell silent. Ambassador Yunsu stood up and walked to Tae. She put her hand on his shoulder. "You saved us. You saved all of us. Whatever price you paid, I hope you know that it was worth something." Tae looked up at her. "I hope so too." The next morning, High Chancellor Valorn called an emergency session of the Union Council. Every species sent their representatives. The Grand Hall had been cleaned and repaired, but the scorch marks on the walls remained, a reminder of what had happened. Valorn stood at the center platform, trying to look dignified. But his voice shook when he spoke. "We have all seen the footage. We have all witnessed what one human did to an entire army of Karath warriors. This raises serious questions about the safety of our union. I propose that humans be removed from our organization immediately for the protection of all species." Murmurs filled the hall. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. Then Park Yuna stepped forward. She walked to the center of the hall with confidence, her boots clicking on the floor. She was not a diplomat. She was a soldier. But today, she would speak for humanity. "High Chancellor," she said, her voice strong and clear. "You want to remove humans because one of us is powerful. But let me ask you something. Yesterday, when the Karath attacked, what did that powerful human do?" Valorn frowned. "He fought. He destroyed. Wrong." Yuna held up a hand. "He protected. Not one Karath soldier was killed. Not one innocent bystander was harmed. He had the power to destroy everyone in this hall, and instead, he chose mercy. She turned to address all the delegates. Humans know war. We have fought each other for thousands of years. We have created weapons that could crack our planet in half. We know exactly how destructive power can be. She paused. And that is why we came here seeking peace. Not because we are weak, but because we know what happens when strength is used without wisdom. Choi Mina stepped forward next. She activated a holographic display that showed her findings. I have evidence that the Karath created a bioweapon designed to kill all humans. Not just the delegation here. All humans everywhere. They plan to release it during the ceremony and blame it on an accident. The data floated in the air for everyone to see. The Karath were not interested in peace. They wanted to make an example of the weakest species to frighten everyone else into submission. The hall exploded with angry voices. Delegates from other species shouted accusations. The Karath representatives tried to defend themselves, but the evidence was clear. In the chaos, Scylla stood up. Her silver skin caught the light as she raised her hands for silence. I warned the humans about the attack, she said. I told them to run. Do you know what their response was? Everyone looked at her. They stayed. They knew they might die, but they stayed because they believed in this union. They believed in peace. She turned to look at Valorn. And when the attack came, it was a human who saved us all. Not our armies. Not our technology. One human who chose to fight for everyone, not just his own species. She pointed at the human delegation. You ask if we should fear them. I ask a different question. If humans wanted to rule the galaxy, could we stop them? She let the question hang in the air. They have the power. They have had it all along. And yet they came here as equals, asking only for a seat at the table. That is not the behavior of conquerors. That is the behavior of true partners. Valorn opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. He looked around the hall. He saw delegates nodding. He saw a species who had been enemies for centuries, finding common ground in their surprise and confusion. And he saw the human delegation standing together, quiet and patient, waiting for the galaxy to decide what kind of universe it wanted to live in. That evening, Kim Tae sat alone on the observation deck of the horizon. The stars stretched out before him like an endless ocean. His body ached from the power he had used. Every muscle felt heavy. His head throbbed with a dull pain that would not go away. Li Han found him there, sitting in the darkness. You should rest, Han said. Tae shook his head. I cannot stop thinking about it. The way they looked at me in that hall, like I was a monster. Han sat down next to him. You saved their lives. I scared them. I reminded them that power is not always controlled. That something stronger than them exists. Is that so bad? Maybe they needed to be reminded. Tae laughed, but there was no joy in it. Every time I use these abilities, I feel something slipping away. My humanity. My connection to normal life. I wonder sometimes if this is even worth it. If I am still the person I used to be. Han was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that Tae would remember for the rest of his life. You know what makes you human? It is not your body. It is not your DNA. It is the choices you make. He looked at Tae with serious eyes. You had the power to kill everyone in that hall. You chose not to. That choice is what makes you human. More human than most of those aliens will ever understand. Tae stared at him. The fire does not take away your humanity, Han said. It reveals it. You had every reason to hate them. They insulted us. They tried to murder us. But you gave them mercy instead. That is not the choice of a monster. That is the choice of a man. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Tae smiled. It was a small smile, tired and worn. But it was real. Thank you, he said. Han nodded. Now get some rest. Tomorrow will be a long day. 1 month passed. The galaxy had changed. Not completely. Change takes time, especially for civilizations that have existed for thousands of years. But the first cracks had appeared in the old ways of thinking, and something new was beginning to grow. The Karath Empire had fallen into chaos. Warlord Drakethus was removed from power by his own people, who feared that his actions would bring destruction upon them all. A new government formed, led by younger leaders who wanted peace instead of war. They sent formal apologies to every species in the Union. They offered to pay for all damages. They begged for forgiveness. Most importantly, they stopped building weapons. The Galactic Union called a new summit, this time to welcome the Karath back as members rather than conquerors. It was a strange thing to see the once proud warriors standing quietly, heads bowed, asking for a chance to start again. But that is what happens when the universe shifts beneath your feet. You learn to find new ground. Axis Prime had been repaired. The scorch marks were gone. New banners hung from the ceiling. The Grand Hall looked exactly as it had before, except for one difference. The human delegation no longer sat at the bottom. They had been given a platform at the center of the hall, equal to the Valori and the other founding species. When Ambassador Yunsu walked in, aliens who had mocked humans just weeks ago now stood in respect. They did not bow. That would be too much change too quickly. But they stood. And for the first time, they looked at humans as equals. Kinte walked at the back of the delegation, just as he always had. His head was slightly bowed. His hands were loose at his sides. He looked exactly like he always did, unremarkable and easily forgotten. But no one forgot him anymore. They watched him from the corners of their eyes. They whispered about him in voices they thought he could not hear. He pretended not to notice. The ceremony began. High Chancellor Valorn stood at the central platform, his 4 hands clasped in front of him. He had changed in the past month. His arrogance was gone. His eyes held something new, something that might have been wisdom. "We gather here today to heal old wounds and build new bridges," he said. "The events of 1 month ago showed us truths that we were too blind to see. We believed that strength meant conquest. We believed that power meant control. We were wrong." He turned to face the human delegation. "I have spoken with the human ambassador many times since that night. I have learned things about humanity that I never knew. They are not a weak species who stumbled into space by accident. They are survivors. They have faced challenges that would have destroyed any other civilization, and they emerged stronger each time." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was heavy with emotion. "I mocked them. I called them children and laborers. I treated them as lesser beings. And when danger came, it was a human who saved my life." He bowed his head. "I apologize. To all humans, everywhere. I was wrong." The hall was silent. No one had ever heard a High Chancellor apologize before. Ambassador Yunsu stepped forward. She was small compared to most aliens, but she stood with perfect dignity, her gray hair shining in the light. "Thank you, High Chancellor. Your words mean more than you know." She looked around the hall at all the gathered species. Humanity did not come to the stars to conquer. We came because we were curious. We looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. We wanted to meet new friends. We wanted to learn new things. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. She smiled softly. "Yes, we have power. We have strength that even we did not fully understand until recently. But we have also learned, through centuries of hard lessons, that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We have fought terrible wars among ourselves. We have come close to ending our own species more than once. We know better than anyone what happens when strength is used carelessly." Her voice grew stronger. "That is why we came here seeking peace. Not because we are weak. but because we are strong enough to choose a different path. We offer our hand in friendship to every species willing to take it. We offer our protection to those who need it. And we promise that our power will never be used to conquer or destroy. It will only be used to defend. Applause filled the hall. It started slowly, then grew until the walls seemed to shake with the sound. Aliens who had hated humans now cheered for them. Fear had transformed into something else. Something better. Later, after the ceremony, Scylla found Kinte standing alone in a quiet corridor. He was looking out a window at the stars, just as he always did. She approached him slowly, not wanting to startle him. "May I speak with you?" she asked. Tay turned to face her. His eyes were normal, dark and human. "Of course." Scylla studied him for a moment. He looked so ordinary. So unremarkable. It was hard to believe this was the same being who had defeated an army. "My people have a legend," she said. "Very old, from before we traveled the stars. It speaks of beings who could bend reality with their will. Beings who were made of light and fire. We called them gods." Tay said nothing. "When I watched you in that hall, I thought the legend had come true. I thought the gods had returned." She tilted her head. "But now, looking at you, I do not see a god. I see something else." "What do you see?" Tay asked. "I see a man who is tired. A man who carries a heavy burden. A man who could rule the galaxy if he wanted, but chooses instead to stand in shadows and protect others." Tay looked away. "I am not a god. I am not even a hero. I am just a person who was given something he never asked for, trying to use it in a way that does not hurt anyone." Scylla stepped closer. "Perhaps that is what gods truly are. Not beings of perfect power, but beings of perfect choice. They have the power to do anything, and they choose to be kind." Tay looked at her with surprise. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. "You are wise," he said quietly. "I am old," Scylla replied with a slight smile. "Old enough to know that wisdom is just another word for learning from mistakes. I suspect you humans know a lot about that." They stood together in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars drift past. The horizon departed Axis Prime the next day. Park Eunice stood on the bridge, guiding the ship through the busy traffic of vessels coming and going from the station. Li Han sat at the security console, watching the sensors. Choi Mina reviewed data on her tablet, already planning her next research project. Ambassador Yun Su sat in her chair, looking older, but somehow lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it. The hard part is just beginning," Yuna replied. "Peace is not something you achieve once and then forget about. It requires constant work." "I know, but at least now we have a chance. That is more than we had before." Kinte entered the bridge quietly. He had changed back into his simple gray clothes. His head was slightly bowed, his hands loose at his sides. He looked exactly like he had when they first arrived at Axis Prime, before everything changed. Yuna looked at him and smiled. "The galaxy is going to be watching us now." "Watching you? Are you ready for that?" Tay shrugged. "I will do what I have always done. Stay in the background. Help where I can. Try not to break anything. And if another Drakethus appears..." Tay met her eyes. For just a moment, a flicker of gold passed through them. "Then I will do what needs to be done." Just like before, the horizon accelerated toward the jump point that would take them back to Earth. Behind them, Axis Prime grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among billions. Li Han joined Tay at the observation window. They stood together, watching the stars. "Do you think they will ever fully accept us?" Han asked. Tay considered the question. "Maybe, maybe not. Acceptance takes time. What matters is that we keep trying. Keep showing them who we really are. And who are we? Tay smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. We are humans. We are the species that refused to die. The species that looked at every obstacle and found a way around it. The species that turned enemies into friends more often than we turned them into corpses. He pressed his hand against the cold glass of the window. We are not here to rule over them. We are not here to frighten them. We are here to stand beside them, equal partners in whatever future we build together. Han nodded slowly. That sounds about right. The jump engines activated, and the stars stretched into lines of light. The horizon vanished into the bright tunnel of faster-than-light travel, carrying the human delegation home, and somewhere across the galaxy. In 1,000 different languages, a new proverb began to spread. It was whispered in taverns and schools, in temples and barracks, anywhere beings gathered to talk about the strange and wonderful universe they lived in. Never mistake a human's kindness for weakness. They are the fire that chooses not to burn. It was a good proverb. It was true. And it was only the beginning.